Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here because today we are going to completely break down the TOEIC bridge tests. Whether you're an HR manager trying to streamline your hiring process, an educator tracking student progress, or a language learner aiming to prove your skills, really understanding how this assessment works is going to be incredibly valuable for you. We're going to look right under the hood of this test, demystify exactly what it is, how it works, and most importantly, how to conquer it. Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. First, introducing the TOEIC bridge. Then, bridge versus standard TOEIC. After that, we'll go inside the 4 sections, make sense of the scores, and finally, getting ready for test day. All right, section 1, introducing the TOEIC bridge. Look, when it comes to English testing, it is definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation. To put it simply, the TOEIC bridge is an assessment specifically designed for beginning to intermediate learners. It measures those foundational, everyday English communication skills, and with the recently redesigned version, it actually measures all 4 core skills: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. This test is honestly the ultimate tool for placing students in the right programs, measuring if a curriculum is actually working, or determining everyday workplace readiness, all without completely overwhelming the test taker with heavy, complex business jargon. Moving right along to Section 2, Bridge versus Standard TOEIC. To really get what the bridge test is all about, we have to compare it to its famous older sibling. So the big question you've got to ask yourself is this: which test is right for you or your organization? Do you need a full marathon, or are you just looking for an accessible 5K to determine foundational skills? Think of the standard TOEIC as the business marathon. It is rigorous, it lasts about 2.5 hours, it's totally packed with advanced business and academic English, and it gives you a score all the way up to 990. The TOEIC bridge, on the other hand, is your everyday 5K. It uses common, everyday English, think hobbies, dining out, simple office interactions, and it's delivered at a slightly slower pace. The new 4-skill version clocks in at around 1 hour and 50 minutes total, testing those foundational skills with a completely different scoring scale. It's really built for approachability. Which brings us to Section 3, inside the 4 sections. Let's look under the hood and systematically break this down, section by section. First up is the listening test, which takes a brisk 25 minutes to complete. In those 25 minutes, test takers face 50 multiple-choice questions broken down into 4 specific parts. You start with 4 pictures, you move into question-response, then conversations, and you wrap up with talks. The whole goal here is to test comprehension of simple greetings, basic instructions, and everyday routines. You'll hear descriptions and dialogue spoken nice and clearly, at a manageable pace. During that first part of the listening test takers rely heavily on visual cues. They're presented with 4 distinct images, they listen to a short audio clip, and then they have to identify which spoken sentence best describes the scene. It's a great way to directly connect spoken English to real-world visual context. Next, we shift gears over to the reading test. This section gives you a little bit more time, clocking in at 35 minutes. During this 35-minute block, test takers are looking at another 15 multiple-choice questions. It's grouped into 3 parts: sentence completion, text completion, and reading comprehension. Here, candidates demonstrate their ability to interpret everyday formats. We're talking about reading signs, menus, schedules, and short, routine correspondence. What's really interesting here is the modern, everyday context of these questions. Instead of dense academic essays, a test taker might read a simulated group text message about dinner plans, or maybe a community center webpage about a charity race. It tests practical English that a person is actually going to encounter in their daily life. Moving on, we have the newly designed speaking section. Now, this is a rapid-fire 15-minute test delivered on a computer. Test takers answer 8 questions covering 6 different task types. You have very short windows, anywhere from 15 to just 60 seconds to prepare verbal responses. You might be asked to read a text aloud, describe a photo, retell a story you just heard, or make a basic recommendation. Those 8 speaking questions are distributed strategically. Test takers start off with 2 read a short text aloud questions just to warm up, then they describe 2 photographs. By the time they hit questions 7 and 8, they're independently telling a story and supporting a recommendation. It scales up the cognitive load wonderfully in just 15 minutes. Finally, we have the writing test. This takes about 37 minutes and consists of 9 questions. Test takers start simple, literally just dragging and dropping words on a screen to build a grammatically correct sentence. From there, they write sentences based on photographs, and eventually, they're given up to 8 minutes to write a full response to a brief text message. It's highly practical and perfectly tailored to the modern digital workplace. Section 4, Making Sense of Scores. Now, understanding the results is probably the most crucial part for the HR managers and educators out there who rely on this data. The most important number to lock in here is the scale. For both the listening and reading sections, the score scale is 15 to 50. It's a scaled score calculated using statistical equating, which just means it ensures fairness across different test versions. Oh, and a huge tip for test takers, there is 0 penalty for guessing. When everything is said and done, test takers receive an official score certificate. It displays their scaled score out of 50 for both reading and listening. But crucially, it also provides a detailed breakdown of abilities measured as percentages. This tells you exactly how well the test taker understood vocabulary, grammar, or short dialogues. That is incredibly actionable feedback for future learning. So, how does this translate globally? Well, ETS conducted a standard-setting study to map these exact scores directly to the global CEFR scale. That's the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. A score of 26 in listening or a 34 in reading perfectly hits the A2 threshold. If you push up to a 45 in reading, you've officially hit B1. This makes the scores instantly understandable anywhere in the world. And our final section, Section 5, Getting Ready for Test Day. Knowing the structure is really only half the battle. Actually preparing to sit for the exam is where the rubber meets the road. Test day, for the paper-delivered listening and reading tests, begins with filling out an official background questionnaire, asking about education and English experience. But more importantly, test takers need to know that all multiple-choice answers must be bubbled in on this specific sheet using a pencil. You cannot mark your answers in the test book itself. You only get credit for what is correctly bubbled on the sheet. So how do you actually get ready? We recommend a clear 3-step preparation pathway. Step 1, definitely start with the free sample questions provided by ETS to get a feel for the format. Step 2, utilize third-party language training platforms like Global Exam. They offer tailored study plans, grammar sheets, and 60 premium sample exercises based on actual exam questions. And step 3, take time to practice tests. Replicating those 25-minute and 35-minute pressure cookers is the only way to ensure you're pacing yourself correctly on test day. Which leaves us with one final thought to ponder. Now that you understand the mechanics, the accessibility, and the scoring of this foundational test, how will you use the TOEIC Bridge to unlock your global potential? Whether that's transforming your own career trajectory or revolutionizing your organization's hiring strategy by accurately measuring everyday English, the tools are now in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and happy testing.